if you know your time is limited, you get the chance to prepare to meet the unknown. And psychedelics allow you to have a taste of what that might be like.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Muldowney, looking like a giant tomato because I made the terrible mistake to go and run for a coffee before we were doing this recording. And as you can see, the coffee is no more, and I look like a tomato. Never go out in the Florida heat. Anyway, also sweating in a different part of the country is what an introduction that is my gorgeous friend and colleague, DiAnna Ritola. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you so much. This is super exciting for me. I'm glad to be here, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
You're not looking as sweaty as I am for sure. You're looking like a goddess. You have a lovely fan going over your head
I
to
am
make you look
I am I
angelic.
am glowing. Yes, I'm just glowing, not quite full on poor sweating because I haven't been outside. That was
Wait. Yeah, not like the
um
crazy girls that I am, who decided to go for, and I even texted her. I said, I'm going for a run slash I'm actually going for a walk, but I look like I've gone for about a 10-mile run. Anyway, Diana, you are a celebrant with Muldowney Memorials. We've worked together plenty of times, but you do a lot of other things. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do. I love doing celebrant work for funerals and weddings and memorial services and baby blessings and all of that. Life events are deserve to be celebrated. So that's definitely part of my work. I also own True North Healing Sanctuary, which is a retreat center in Worthington, Massachusetts, kind of between I-91, which goes right up the middle of the state, and the Berkshires. So it's called the Hill Towns, and it's lovely here, but still experiencing the heat wave. So that's a lot. And so when someone comes to the retreat center, they can do energy work with me. They can do spiritual counseling with me. I do offer psychedelic therapy, one-on-one and small group, so that because I find that psychedelics are a way that open a door to things that we often hide or are too afraid to open ourselves. But with the support of that medicine and the support of a trusted guide, there can be some extra bonus healing. And I also hold women's circles and other stuff, and I also live here, so that's nice too.
How many people can you host in the retreats?
If it is an overnight retreat, I can sleep 6-ish people here. Although I do have space for camping, and we have a space for RVs if someone had that. If I am hosting like a day-long retreat, I try to cap it around 15 to 20, depends on the activity. Simply because I want everyone to feel like they've gotten what they need. And I also really there's a difference between speaking to a large group of people, leading a very structured um, lecture or something like that, and working in a small group situation. And I want the folks who come here to feel like they are truly being held and nurtured. So I keep it pretty small.
Mhm. And this season of the podcast seems to be quite influenced by psychedelics. I'm just laughing at you mentioning it because we just recently released an episode with our dear friend Lauren from Lamort, who spoke about her experience with, I'm probably getting this drug's name wrong, but psilocybin, I think it's called.
Yep. Nope. That's the medicine that I work with as well. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she was giving us we had a whole podcast about that and about her experience with that. And then previous to that, we had another lady who talked about cutting off all of the senses. What's that called again? Like sensory.
Oh, sensory deprivation. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, so we seem to be that seems to be the theme of this. I love the way each season naturally creates its own little theme.
Right.
So
I- Without even trying, you just end up
yeah.
attracting people who have interesting things. I'm actually currently working on a certification as a end of life doula because there's an organization with for psychedelics at the end of life.
Hmm.
It seems to be an emerging field, especially
Mhm.
for folks who have a terminal illness, to help them kind of get to the point of acceptance, right?
Yeah.
If you know your time is limited, I mean, and okay, all our time is limited, but if you have a, m- a more honed in knowledge on your expiration date,
If you've
uh,
been given a date,
it's
an
given a
approximation.
date or at least a ballpark figure that you get the chance to prepare to meet the unknown,
Mhm.
and psychedelics allow you to have a taste of what that might be like, and to realize that once this body experience is ended, there's other stuff. We just don't exactly know what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. No, the call or the recording with Lauren was very, very fascinating, and we've had her on the podcast before. We've actually had her. I think that was her third time because the first time she was in partnership with somebody, and so we were in was the very. I think it was even the first season, which is crazy to think we're in season 6 now, 6 years later. But then she had evolved from that partnership into her own business, and now this psilocybin I was very, very intrigued with, and we're actually going to be in Ireland together for a week doing an Irish retreat in August. I was about to say next month, but by tomorrow I can say next month. It's
It
still June 30th today.
That's right.
um
I noticed that you were hosting that retreat, and it was very exciting. I was very tempted.
Well, and so what was interesting, we sold out within 24 hours. And I
That's
mean,
amazing.
so I'm very excited to do it, but I'm also excited to have the lived experience of doing it with all these people so that we can then repeat it and do it again next
Yeah,
year. And I think next year we are aiming
absolutely.
to try and do it and maybe even take a bigger group. I don't know. Again, we'll see once we've had the lived experience of it. Is to do it around Samhain, around the Irish Halloween.
Absolutely. Mm.
So that'll be great. But yeah, I am intrigued on I told Lauren, I said, I'm not holding her to anything, but I was like, should she come across any of her little mushrooms that, maybe I'll dalliance. We'll see. We'll see. I'm such a
Right.
but could
Yeah.
you maybe, Diana, you're such a wonderful celebrant, and you're honestly you're one of my favorites, and I love having families. It's very interesting actually when a family or a funeral home calls and they want a celebrant, and I try and pair as much as I can. And you are such
Mhm.
an incredible celebrant. You're so open hearted. Can you give us obviously I know we're friends aside from anything else, but can you give the listeners a little bit of a just a snapshot into your life and how you came to be who you are and the struggles you've had.
I actually grew up with my uncle being a funeral director, and so I wasn't ever uncomfortable with death. It was something that was really normalized in our home and in our family. In fact, I remember my uncle was single for a long time and lived in an apartment above the funeral home. So even though he didn't own the funeral home, he was an employee. But I remember playing in caskets as a child, like getting in and getting out and trying them out and being able to check out all the cool fabrics and pillows, etc. And I also came from a pretty big family, so somebody was always dying, right? And my parents were they believed in that extended family responsibility. You show up for all of the celebrations, even when the celebration is sad. I was really comfortable with death and funeral homes and that sort of things. And then as I as I moved into being an interfaith minister, so I went to seminary in 2009, primarily with the idea of adding it to my already existing coaching business. Someone asked me to do a wedding, and then someone asked me to do a funeral or a celebration of life. And I just got to the point of, oh, right, that's also part of what I love to do is to be with people in their moments of great emotion. And weddings are always filled with joy and some sadness. like nobody gets what all they want or people aren't there that you want to be. And funerals and memorial services are always sad and filled with laughter because no one's life isn't funny on some level. And one of the best parts of learning a family's experience of their loved one who has passed is to hear about the things that were silly and quirky and made them laugh and brought them joy, as well as the sort of the legacy that they wanted to leave, right? We all think about the how do I want to be remembered? And so very often folks go into a memorial service situation or a funeral situation with the idea of, well, we want our loved one to be remembered as the great lawyer that he or she was, or the great caretaker, or the great sibling, whatever that was. But nobody's great all the time. To be able to fully honor the wonderful, we have to acknowledge that sometimes you're kind of a jerk, or sometimes you laughed inappropriately at somebody's, terrible joke, or life is too big for one small definition.
Mm,
And so being a celebrant, I like to talk to the families about how big their loved one was and how
mhm.
they can bring some of that multifaceted self into a 40-minute memorial celebration, which is not always easy.
No, no, not when you're given such a limited space of time as well, you know? Like we did a post the other day where it's a funeral celebrant is more important than picking your wedding celebrant. And,
Yes.
really and truly that is because a wedding celebrant, for the most part, at least any wedding celebrants I know anyway, they have more than 24 and 48 hours to put together a service. Funeral celebrants don't
Yeah,
always have that liberty.
exactly. And there's something wonderfully freeing about the time crunch
Mhm.
because it's going to be good and it's probably going to be great, but nobody's going to nitpick all of the different parts
Mm.
because it is in a limited time crunch. Whereas if you're planning your wedding a year in advance, 9 months in advance, there's gonna be a lot of things that you wanna tweak and adjust and have conversations about and go back and forth and think about it. That's not true when you're under a time crunch, and so you really get to hone in on what do you wanna say? What do you wanna do? How do you want to celebrate this loved one who was so vital to you?
Mhm. Yeah. You don't have time to overthink it. But at the same time, I feel like that in and of itself is quite freeing because as we know as celebrants, one of the things we always offer families is that comfortability of knowing that right? If you're not sure, if you're sitting here 2 days in front of the funeral and you're not sure if you're gonna have the cojones to speak because you just feel like you might cry, you might whatever, write it out and know that we can carry those words for you on the day. So there's a freeness in that because
Mhm.
you're under a time crunch, so the words are just pouring out of you. Like they say you should journal, instead of just
Yes.
necessarily keeping all your anger inside, writing and journaling is great and therapeutic. This is a similar thing. You're under time crunch, so you're kind of forced to put all these words out. And, yes, you can
Mhm.
read over them and obviously change it before the service, but there's a freeness to that in it being under a time crunch and a freeness of not overthinking everything because I know from being a wedding planner, a lot of things are overthought of and nearly
Yes.
overthought out of the wedding when they really should never have been because they were perfect as they were, but they're just,
Exactly. And I think too, when families allow themselves to be messy, right? To
yeah.
be vulnerable, it invites the people who are there as witnesses, as sort of like second and third tier grievers, to offer support in ways that we don't always ask for.
Hmm.
We are not generally allowed or encouraged to ask for help, to ask for support, to ask for just let me be, a crying mess or feel sick to my stomach or whatever those responses that our bodies are going to have to a great loss,
Yeah.
great change, even when you expect it, right? Even when your grandmother was 98 years old and had lived a lovely life, it is still an ending.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you're in it how you're going to
Yeah.
react.
Yeah.
And so when you are doing that within the construct and confines of a funeral service led by a celebrant, there is a freedom to just be because you're not trying to manage.
Yeah. And you're not trying to fit into a mold. You're not trying to make sure you do the exact mass ritual or whatever it might be, and you have the freedom to include a Jewish piece, a Buddhist piece, a Catholic prayer, a poem from Winnie the Pooh, whatever. You can include all of the things. I feel like so many people assume celebrants are atheist or humanist or, anti religion or any of that kind of stuff. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
And it really it does, it just opens up so much more for families to be able to share more, do more, and really just take the narrative back while having a professional guidance. They can take the narrative back and do a funeral their way. I mean, it really is such a special. It's such a I love being a celebrant. I really do. It's one of my favorite things. I really and there's nothing more rewarding than when you step down from the podium or off wherever you've been, and people are coming up to you saying, "Oh my gosh, how did you know Mary? Oh my gosh, how long have you known the Murphy family?" or whatever. And you're like,
E- Exactly. Yes,
so good.
exactly. And when the family says, I feel like our loved one brought you to us so that
Yes.
you could help with them. That is just that's exactly what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
I don't it's not about me.
No.
It is about how can I be the vessel or the
Mm.
conduit for your loved one and you to have this final conversation in public.
Yeah. Yeah. And we actually just today, so today is we're recording this on the last day of June, the last day of Pride Month. And we just actually did a
Mhm.
workshop this morning on end of life planning for the LGBTQ plus community. And one of the things
Great.
that we said in the presentation is, you've lived hopefully so authentically and true to yourself and pridefully and out loud and all of that good stuff your entire life. Why then do you leave your final chapter to be written by somebody else or spoken by somebody else? And in terms of pre-planning, I mean, I just think it's so important for that community to pre-plan, to give themselves a voice that can be taken, can be robbed in that final chapter. I mean, it breaks my heart when I've seen it happen. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, since it is, we're probably not going to air this until July, but maybe we'll continue the pride, keep it going.
Here, keep it going. Yeah, it's more talked about now, but generally in most people's ideas, when they hear pre-planning for a funeral, they think paying. Paying for a casket, buying a funeral cemetery plot, those sorts of things. And that is important if that's how you want to preserve your remains. But when you and I and other celebrants talk about pre-planning, we talk about what do you want people to know about you?
Yeah.
What do you want to say? Do you want to record something that that gives your voice at the final moment? Do you want to make sure that the people who are important to you are also involved? You know,
Mhm.
do you want to play It's Raining Men because that was your theme song, right? or or do you or were you a person who was okay with being out, but you didn't participate in all
Yeah.
of the pride extravaganza because
Yeah.
you just thought, "No, that's not me. I'm not gonna come to rain with rainbows if you were not a person
Yeah.
who wanted that sort of expression." And yet, if you don't tell anybody, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
So
Well, we have that recording, and it will be live on our YouTube channel. So check it out if you want to hear more information about that and about your options. We do have a free pre-planning guide. I have a small one that has 5 questions to open the conversation. Then I have a larger one with 40 plus questions to really dig deep and pre-planning. And it's so important. I was raised Catholic. I definitely want some Catholic prayers said at my funeral, but I do want it to be led by a celebrant, preferably by a celebrant who's a friend, a professional at what they do. I guess it depends on which one of us goes first, DiAnna. But uh, I swear I
got your
love
back,
having that
sister.
conversation with people in this profession. Like, I've already chosen my funeral director, da, 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 but then it's like, wait, what if you
Absolutely.
go first? What if I go first? We're gonna
I
have to
know. I know.
rejig our plans. But it's an important conversation. I mean, look, I've never had to come out to anybody, so I can't even remotely understand what that's like, that conversation is like. But I would nearly say that having your plans or some sort of pre-plan is as important, nearly as important a conversation to have with your loved ones as that initial conversation, because I've just seen too much
Absolutely.
heartbreak happen. Somebody who is identified as female but was born male, and now they're being buried male because their mom never could get on board and their partner is lost, and it's a mess. It's a shit show. And so it's a very important conversation to have. It really, really is. The retreats that you hold, the women's circles, tell us a little bit about that, about what you provide for people.
I am women focused, and I generally do circles on sort of either the traditional Wiccan holy days, so the solstices and equinoxes and the cross quarter days. I also do stuff around the full moon or the new moon, but I'm incredibly inconsistent because I also have a life, right? So I do this and then I do that. I tell myself I should be a little bit more consistent. I should just plan it and plan it and plan it. And then, but something happens, like there's a cool concert, and I'm not going to miss out on life
Yeah.
because, you know, and so what I love to do is just say, hey, who's around this weekend? And
Yeah.
understand that it's perfect. Most of my women's circles involve a fire if it's not raining, so we can be outside, some chanting and drumming, and a lot of sharing, whether it's about a seasonal sharing. So let's just say we're talking about the summer solstice. We just passed the summer solstice. And so in women's spirituality, the summer solstice is about the mother. It's about what are you creating? What are you nurturing in the world? And so just because you have not procreated a child doesn't mean that you are not mothering something. And we as women need to be together. We were designed to create in community, and we were designed to not be in competition. That's a that's a patriarchal construct, right? That
Yeah.
somebody has to be better than someone else. And so what I do is hold that space for everyone who comes to be heard and seen and encouraged, because it's hard enough out in the world
Yeah.
to do those things. Um, Coming together with other women is important to s- to to feed our fuel so that we can go out and do the good things that we want to do.
Yeah.
And so when someone comes here, either for and I also do personal rituals, personal circles. That I had a friend who got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she asked for a ritual each month for the 3 months that she was doing chemotherapy. And we worked together to plan what each one would be about. And we used the Celtic tree calendar as sort of the guide. So in this month, we're using this. What are the teachings around this particular tree? And how does that relate to her own healing and her own journey? And that was wonderful to be able to support her in the way that she wanted to be supported while also adding in knowledge and experience that I've had. So it
Yeah.
really is a co-creative,
Yeah.
experience.
Which is, and I think it's something that both you and I bring to when we are working with families in whether it's with celebrant work or memorial planning or whatever, is it is a collaboration. It is a collaborative project, right? Like it's, we're bringing the
Mhm.
service together, it's teamwork. I often say that to families. I'm like, I'm only as good as the information you give me. And, and then I'll create a draft and we'll edit it together and we'll work through it together. And so I think that
Exactly.
in and of itself is quite therapeutic for the families that we work with, you know?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And being able to say no is as powerful as being able to say yes. And so if I suggest something and a family says, "Oh, no, that doesn't sound right." I am not offended
No, no.
because it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
It may have worked for a different situation and it doesn't work now. Okay.
Yeah.
We are creating this for the unique person that you loved so that they can be remembered in the way that you most want to remember them.
Yeah, that's it. And it's a no is as informative to us as a yes. Like as you said, I often share like a load of poems initially, and I'm like, you telling me which ones you hate tells me just as much as you telling me which ones you love, because it just helps us to put together this whole person. And as we said at the very beginning, we're getting to know this person in 24, 48 hours, and so we've got to move, we got to dance. We've got to dance.
And it's not a solid 24 or 48 hours.
No,
It's
no.
it's 3 conversations
Yeah,
and a few emails.
yeah, yep, yep, yep,
So,
yep, yep. Oh, listen, I could talk to you all day, but I'm going to have to go and cool off because I'm still look like a tomato. But thank you so much for joining me on the show and talking about all the amazing things that you do. You're absolutely an incredible celebrant. I'm honored to call you a friend and a colleague, and I look forward to many, many, many more decades of work. Well, maybe not decades, we'll see. Of work together. I mean, I've
just a couple.
yeah, a couple, but
I
I felt
know.
like celebrant work, the wonderful thing about celebrant work is though, I feel like it's something I could do until the day I drop. Like it's such rewarding. It's not heavy lifting. I mean, it's such a joy and it's such a
Yeah.
heart opener for me anyway. But who knows?
Yes, me
Anyway,
too. Me
thank
too.
you so much for joining us, Diana. And I will leave all the links so everyone can contact you and maybe go on a retreat. Maybe we'll organize a Glam Reaper retreat. I mean, we're doing one in Ireland. Why not? Let's go to Massachusetts. I'd love to go to Salem. Anyway, okay. Oh my gosh.
It's been lovely, lovely to talk with you too.
Thank you so
Hope
much,
to
Diana.